In this video we will talk about K-maps. The objective of K-maps is to represent a function, as the name says, in a map, very similar to a truth table. The difference is that in a K-map each output cell must be adjacent to another output cell if and only if the other output cell's input combination value varies only in one variable. This does not happen in a truth table. If you take a look at combination 1 and combination 2, between those two variables, two values are changing. The a variable is changing from 0 to 1, and also the b variable is changing from 1 to 0. Now, these two rows are adjacent. Adjacent means there is one cell together with the other cell. So even if they are adjacent, it does not comply with what a K-map does, which is vary only in one variable. To fix this, a K-map reorders the way we place the cells. Instead of ordering the cells from top to bottom, instead we write a matrix. In this case, it's a 2x2 matrix in which we write A equals to 0 in the columns, although it doesn't have to be in the columns, and we write B's and B equal to 0 and B equal to 1 in the rows. And now, if you notice, cell number 1 and cell number 2 in the K-map, they are not together, they are separate. Now let's verify that the values of the input combination between adjacent cells only change in one variable. Here, inside the matrix, I have written the values of A, B. So for example, in the first cell, you can notice that the value is 0, 0. And in the second cell, this is 1, 0. So from 0, 0 to 1, 0, the question is there one, two, or more variable changes? And we can see that since this is variable A and this is variable B, then B is not changing. B is staying at the value of 0. The only variable that is changing in those two cells is the variable A. And this is what a K-map does. Each and every one of those cells, the adjacent cells only change in one variable. Now, the previous K-map I just showed you, it's just one possibility of how we can arrange the variables in a K-map. We actually have a lot of possibilities in how we can arrange the variables. So here I have the first possibility, although it is not in any way the best possibility, or it doesn't have any order of importance. Now, another thing that you have to notice in this slide is that when I write 0 in the first cell, 0 is actually equal to combination from variables A, B. It's actually 0, 0. Okay, so when I write 3, that means that the combination is 1, 1. Now the other possibility is the one that I'm showing you, that instead of putting the variable A in the right column, I am placing this variable in the left column. If we do that, we change the order of the cells. That means we have to place the numbers or the output of the function in different ways. Of course, we can also change the variables. So instead of placing A's in the columns and B's on the rows, we can place B's on the columns and A's on the rows. And of course, again, we have a different combination of the inputs. That's another possibility. And anyways, we have 8 different possibilities of drawing different K-maps. What I want you to understand with this slide is that there is no one specific way of putting the K-map. There are a lot of possibilities in which you can accommodate the variables in a K-map. However, what always happens is that each cell, each adjacent cell, it's always going to have one variable changing. Now, what happens with a 3-variable K-map? The correct way to represent a 3-variable K-map would be in 3D. So let's take a look at a 3D model that represents this. Here I have a 3D model of 8 cubes. Each cube would represent a cell. So here we have also 3 different colors, if you can appreciate. You have the blue color, the red color, and the black color. So this would be a K-map. Now the important part here is that if you see, we have 2 different tones of colors. So for example, if you take the black ones, you can say that this variable, you can say, I don't know, a variable, the a variable, when it is black, a is equal to 0. And when a is gray, then a equal to 1. Now, you can have another variable, for instance b, which would be the blue one, and you have again two sides or two tones of blue, and one would be where b is equal to 0, and another one would be when b is equal to 1. And finally, you would have a third variable, which would be c, for example, and when it is red, or this would be 1, and maybe when it is a little less red, then it would be the other value. If you move this, you will notice that each cell is adjacent to 3 cells. So if you take, for example, this cell over here, then this cell is adjacent to this cell, it's adjacent to this cell, and it is adjacent to this cell. And each and every one of each cell has 3 adjacencies. So now you've seen how you can represent a 3-variable K-map with a 3D model. However, it is very hard for you to write a 3D model in a paper. So we use a 2D map for simplicity. This is what a K-map would look, a 3-variable K-map. Now, the important thing here is that the adjacents, it's not just as it was on 2D. So for example, we can say these are the adjacent cells. So you can see that these 2 cells are adjacent. Remember, this is because this is as if this was a 3D. We also have those adjacent cells. Again, the first cell is going to be adjacent to the last cell. And of course, we have that adjacent cells. The top cells are adjacent to the bottom cells. Now, what happens with a 4-variable K-map? Well, things get a little more complicated because if a 3-variable K-map was 3D, then a 4-variable K-map, it's 4D, it's 4 dimensions. The easy way to solve this is, again, remembering that we have some adjacencies that are not easy to see, but we have to remember that those cells are adjacent. So here we have the same thing that applied on the 3-variable K-map. The cell on the left is adjacent to the cell on the right. Again, we have the same with the second row, the same with the third row, and the same with the fourth row. However, we also have some other adjacencies. If that applies in rows, we also have that in columns. So the first cell, it's also adjacent to the cell that it's in the 4th place below. And of course, we also have that as adjacencies. We also have that as adjacencies. And that. Now, what happens with a 5-variable K-map? This is in 5 dimensions. Now, again, it's not that hard. All you have to do is draw 2 4-variable K-maps, and you can see there that I have a line dividing one map from the other. Now, the thing here is that we have another adjacency, and this adjacency is actually this one here. So the first cell on the left map, it's adjacent also to the first cell on the right map. The way you can see this is if you cut the right side of the K-map and put it on top of the left part of the K-map. And if you do that, then the cells that are above or below each map, then those cells are also adjacent. So that means we have that adjacent. We also have that one. That cell is adjacent to that cell, and so on. And at the end, we have all those adjacencies in this K-map. And of course, a 5-variable K-map, it's very hard to solve because we have to think that we have adjacencies even if they are not actually together. So now, what is the purpose of K-maps? Well, the purpose is to minimize a function. And one thing that I haven't mentioned is that the K from the K-maps comes from Carnot. This is the person that invented this way of representing functions. We have an algorithm that lets us minimize a function. The algorithm is, first of all, you have to draw the K-map. As you saw in the previous slides, there is a specific way to draw K-maps. Now, the second part, it's probably one of the hardest because it is very visual. So you have to start grouping 2 to the power of I adjacent members. Again, the members can be ones or zeros. And at the beginning, you have to make E equal to N, where N is the maximum number of variables. For example, if you have a 3-variable function, then you're going to try to group 8 adjacent members. So the third step in the algorithm is if I is equal to 0, then you're going to proceed to step 4. Otherwise, you're going to make I equal to I minus 1. and you're gonna go back to step 2. So for example, we were saying that if we had a 3-variable function, then we're gonna try to group 8 adjacent members. So in the next step, 3 would become 2. Since we go back to step 2, we're gonna try to group 2 to the power of 2, which is 4 adjacent members. And we repeat until I is equal to 0. Then, now that we have grouped all the members, we're gonna mark any member that is grouped only by one group with an asterisk. This is very, very important. And these asterisks represent the essential members and of course the essential groups. The 5th step is to get the Boolean functions for each group. And we're going to see how you're going to get these Boolean functions. And finally, you're going to start building the final function. Now, you're going to start with the essential members function. And these functions, which are the ones that have asterisk, they must be part of the solution. Next, you're going to choose the least amount of groups that cover all the remaining members. Again, this is the trickiest part because you have to be very, very careful by not choosing more groups than it is necessary. So let's see an example. Step 1, the draw. Now, here I have a K-map that I have already drawn, and those are the ones of the K-map. The first step says, well, the second step actually says we're going to group 2 to the power of 4. Now, why 2 to the power of 4? Because if you remember, this is a 4-variable K-map. So we have to try to group 2 to the power of 4 members that are adjacent. Now, the only way to group 2 to the power of 4 is if we had this square. Now the question is this square correct? And the answer, of course, is no. Because in this square, there should be all ones. So this is not true. I is equal to 0. And of course, no, because I is equal to 4. So what we're going to do is we're going to make I equal to I minus 1, so it's 3. And we're going to repeat this step. But this step now is going to be repeated by trying to group 2 to the power of 3 once. So one way that we can group these ones is the way I'm showing in the slide. Of course, this rectangle can be moved to the right or to the left, or can even be placed horizontally. However, you can see in this map that there is no way that 8 ones are together in one rectangle. So of course there is no groups that can be grouped by this way, or by grouping 2 to the power of 3 members. Now the next part is to make the same by trying to group 2 to the power of 2 members. And of course 2 to the power of 2 members, it's 4 members. Now one way to find this is for example that square. And of course if you analyze this map, there's not going to be any way in which you can group 4 members. Again, this square can be moved to the right, to the left, and actually there are 2 different ways, or actually there are more, but you can also say that these 2 ones, for example, could be grouped but with 2 ones over here. That is also another way to have a square, because if you remember, we said that this cell is adjacent to this cell. And another way is to group even the 4 corners. The 4 corners can be one group of 4. Now the question is there any group of 4s? And of course no, there are no groups of 4. So again, we decrement I and we try to group 2 to the power of 1. And of course here we're going to find members that are adjacent one with the other. So here's an example. Here we have one group of 2 members that are adjacent. Here we have another group of 2 members that are adjacent, another group, and finally we have 4 groups. And the question is this correct? And the answer is no. There is another part where it says don't discriminate groups of the same size. So why are we saying that we're discriminating in this case? Because we can also get, well, we have the same 4 groups that I mentioned, but we can also get these groups, which are grouping ones vertically. And we also have this group, and we also have this group. So this is the correct way to group members. So we have 8 different groups. Now, I is equal to 0? No. Then we're going to have to try and repeat the same step by trying to find members of just one alone. And of course, we have a lot of ones alone, which are the ones that are marked on purple. However, this is not correct. Why is this not correct? Because you don't need to be redundant. The ones that you are marking here are already grouped by bigger groups. So this is important. Don't group ones that are included on a bigger group. Just include ones that are outside the groups that you have already included as part of your solution. So now I is equal to 0? Yes. So we go to step 4. Now step 4 is mark with an asterisk every one that is grouped by only one group. So here we put the asterisk on that cell and you ask the question, is that one grouped by only one group? And the answer is no, because we have the group in black and we also have the group in green. So we have two groups grouping this one. So we don't put an asterisk here. And we do the same. We try to find anyone in our map that is grouped by just one group. And of course, in this case, we're not going to find any. However, you have to do this. You have to try to find an asterisk in the solution. Now, the next step is to find the Boolean functions. In this case, you are seeing 8 different groups, and each group has a different function. For instance, the horizontal group, the horizontal blue group, has the function of A inverted, B inverted, C inverted. The brownish group has the function of A inverted, B, D, and so on. All the 8 groups have different functions. Now, here I'm not going to explain how to get these functions. However, I'm going to explain how to get these functions after some slides. Now, even if we have 8 different groups and 8 different functions, the step 6 says find the minimum function or the minimum functions, because sometimes we can have different functions that are both the minimum. So first, we need to choose those groups that have an asterisk inside them. In our case, we don't have any one with an asterisk. Then we need to choose as little groups as possible that cover all the remaining ones or zeros, and we need to cover all the possibilities. So this would be the first solution, or you can say that this is a minimum solution. You can choose all the horizontal groups. However, this is not the only solution. We can also group all the vertical, or we can also choose all the vertical groups, and this would be the second minimum solution. So in this particular case, we have 2 minimum solutions. So how to obtain a group's function? In this map, we have this particular location of the variables A, B, C, and D. With those locations, we have the following min term or max term numeration. What that means is that if we take the values of A, B, C, and D, and we combine them, we're going to find those numbers, those binary numbers. I'm going to give you an example. In that cell, if we look at this cell, we have that A variable, the A variable is equal to 0. So we write a 0. Then the V variable is equal to 1. The C variable is equal to 1. And finally, the D variable is also equal to 1. So this particular combination is equal to the combination number 7, or min term number 7, because we have a 1 there. So for example, let's take the yellow group. In this case, we have 2 members, and of course we have 2 min terms. Min term 1 and the other one is min term 5. If we take these expressions, the min term 1 would be A inverted, B inverted, C inverted, D, and min term 5 would be A inverted, B, C inverted, D. If we take the theorem 6 of Boolean algebra, then this expression would be reduced to A inverted, C inverted, D. So this is how you get the expression of a group of 2 ones. Now, what happens if you have a 4 group member? Well, we take the same approach. We have 4 members. In this case, we have min term 0, min term 1, min term 8, and min term 9. So if we apply theorem 6 to these 4 terms, we're going to get this expression. And if we apply again the theorem 6, then we're going to get this expression, which is B inverted, C inverted. So when we have 4 ones, we get a 2 variable expression. All this iterative process of using theorem 6 can be achieved just by looking at the members and see what variables enclose the group. These variables will be the ones that will remain on the final expression. Another way to see it is to be able to detect which variables cut the group. and those variables will not remain in the final expression. So if you see here, variable a, it's cutting the group in half. We have two variables which are enclosed in the variable a, and we'll have two variables which are not enclosed in this group a. So that means that the variable a is not going to be in this expression. Also, we see that variable d also cuts the group because we have two ones that are inside the d expression or the d area, and we have also two ones which are outside this area. So because of this, we know that the variables that are supposed to be or that should be in the group are c and b, and a and d should disappear from the expression. Here's how you could visualize this. You can see that we have an area where c is equal to 0, which is the area that is showing on yellow. And you also have an area where v is equal to 0, where it's showing in a kind of green area. And if you take these two areas, you have covered all these ones. So you can see that the group is enclosed by the area where c is equal to 0 and v is equal to 0. Remember, where the column says c is as if c, or not as if, it's actually where c is equal to 1. So we have z equal to 0, which is the yellow, and v equal to 0, which is the green part. So the correct expression would be v inverted c inverted. Why is this? Because since c is equal to 0 and v is equal to 0, we need to invert those individual variables in order to get a 1. Now what happened if the members were zeros? It's the same map. If you take a close look, it's the same map. We have the same members, which are 0, 1, 8, and 9. However, instead of being ones, they are zeros. So these are max terms. So when max terms, again, the group is enclosed by the same area, where c is equal to 0 and b is equal to 0. However, when we have max terms, we arrange the expression in a product of sums. So we want that the inner expression, which is the OR, is equal to the 0 at that specific combination. So the correct expression would be v plus c, because since we have v equal to 0 and c equal to 0, we have 0 or 0 being equal to 0. So now to summarize, you have learned how to draw a K-map, how to get the min terms and max terms numeration, and you have also learned how to get the expression of the groups and also how to get the minimum function using the K-map.